Great news, social media is not about to collapse, it already has. And most people are not even aware of it. We've entered an era that is so vastly different from the beginnings of social media that if you now decide to start and take things seriously, build a brand and do it the way people have been doing, you're going to fall into a trap. You're gonna burn out and you're not gonna be able to succeed in this game anymore at all. And I'm not just talking about the small stuff like, oh, the algorithm has changed again because saves are now more important than likes and stuff like this. Actually, something way deeper has cracked. Trust, attention, and the entire way of how somebody chooses a creator they want to follow. And nobody seems to talk about this. Now, the good news is, if you're a serious creator, right? Somebody with an actual goal behind it, not just one of those influencer crap people, but whether you have a product or a service or you're a coach, consultant, whatever it is for you, this collapse, the creator reset, basically, is the best opportunity we've had in years. That is, if you understand how to play this updated game. So let me show you in this video what's really collapsing without us realizing, why most creators are actually reacting exactly the wrong way that's gonna hurt them forever. And I'm gonna show you what the small group of people who actually win in this area are doing differently. Back in the days, 3 years ago, I don't want to say creators had it easier, but it was certainly different, right? You basically just showed up and created a bunch of content. And this is where this whole consistency myth is coming from. At some point, people just started to listen to you just because you put yourself out there and because you talked about whatever it was and created content about it. Right? That thing is done. People don't listen to you anymore. We're basically right now in the middle of what I call the great creator reset, which I kind of predicted about 2 or 3 years ago in some of those videos, by the way. You can still look at them. You can find them. But basically, there are 3 things that fell apart without many of us realizing. First of all, the rise of AI, obviously, and as a result of that, actually, people getting massive trust issues, especially with things they see on the internet. And I don't even think that's just a conscious thing. I actually think it's the brain's natural response of this glooming threat, which is actually a very big threat, because suddenly we can't really tell whether it's really Will Smith eating spaghetti or whether that's really an actual cat playing the drum set outside, if you know what I mean. And as a result of that, it's gotten people to be wary because after all, lying has become easier than ever. And the whole proof and showing versus telling thing, which was the thing about social media that made it so attractive in the first place, has basically vanished within the span of a few months. I call it the Trust Recession because people just don't trust anyone anymore, and rightfully so. Now, the next major thing that's happened is what I would call the Originality Meltdown. And that's a big one because it's really starting to get crowded out there. We have the biggest influx of new creators popping up ever since the start of social media. I see it in my own niche, right? I see it within all of my clients' niches. People just pop up and basically what they do is they noise up the whole place. Right? And some do have good content, I give you that, but lots of them, actually the majority of them, have shitty content, to be honest, mediocre content. I think right now we're in this weird phase of mediocrity, right? And this is where the actual creator reset comes in and what I used to call the algorithm chase, right? A few years ago in some of my older videos. Essentially, creators are looking at other creators to see what they do, and they say, okay, right, other creators are doing very similar things, so that's gotta be what the algorithm must be into, so let me just create more of that. And the algorithms look at the creators and be like, well, they sort of do a similar thing, so let me just show more of that, right? Which basically results in that endless chase of the algorithm chasing people and people chasing the algorithm. And finally, we're at the point where things just get boring and pretty stale. And now this whole thing gets even more propelled by AI because people just copy each other even more so using AI analysis. And it seems like people are sort of afraid of having to think for themselves or trying to do some things on their own. And I can kind of see it with myself sometimes. It's scary. But AI is never going to come up with some crazy new ass way of thinking of something or have an opinion about something. So content more or less just always stays the same and it's starting to become flatter and flatter while more and more people come out and come in basically saying the same flat things, which has gotten us to a point, frankly, where people are just fed up. And this manifests in this big engagement collapse that we've started to see actually in the past few months, especially on Instagram right now. Likes are at an all-time low. What used to get lots of likes doesn't get a lot of likes anymore because likes used to be a very casual thing, but now people start to think twice whether they should like something or risk end up somebody seeing what they like, right? right? It's a very personal thing. And the last thing that's finally collapsing as well is the whole monetization slash influencer game. And I've been seeing this hands-on a lot. First of all, brand deals have become pretty unreliable for the most part. I've actually ended all of my brand partnerships with all the brands that I've worked with just because it's not really viable anymore for me as a creator that has sort of anticipated this whole shift. Honestly, I think it's the only way of going forward. For example, I've seen this firsthand by working with not just some influencer and social media agencies, but also with some of the biggest influencers out there in some countries. People with immense reach, basically the old crowd that kind of became big years ago. But yeah, some of their campaigns flopped quite big time. And on the agency side, the return of investment has been crushed a lot. So agencies are like, well, we don't get return anymore, so we want to pay less. The big influencers are like, well, we've always gotten a lot of money, so I'm not going to do the same thing for less. So this is where we're at right now. And slowly and finally, most brands start to catch up to this whole thing, and they actually think twice whether they should hire one of these influencers or creators in general. And they finally start to understand that they need to create some sort of organic content strategy for themselves, right? Whether it's with their own creators or big creators, whatever it is, but something organic that pulls them people naturally towards whatever product they have, right? Because this ad style partnership content just doesn't cut it anymore. I remember when I actually brought this up at some very high level meeting with an agency and with some brands actually, and I kind of got laughed at. They were looking at me in a very weird way, and I actually got fired because I told some of these old-fashioned, new-fashioned people that this is not gonna work generally. Not for this brand, not for other brands anymore. But that brand that we're talking about is now gone. Doesn't exist anymore. Done. I don't even know where they are. Point being, the old social media was all about visibility and getting fast results and this sort of hype-ish bull market. But frankly, audiences right now are just overwhelmed. I'm sure you yourself are overwhelmed as well. Something just feels off, right? But nobody really knows why. I can tell you why. Because people see the very same content from 20 different creators. People don't want other people to know what they are really into because it's just gotten weird. What I call silent consumption is now basically the default. Because a like nowadays is an actual social signal and not a reflex as it used to be anymore. So with all that being said, how's this new game actually gonna work? How can you actually succeed in these strange times? First of all, the new game is everything the old game was not, right? It's about differentiation, not just posting more of the same crap like so many people gurus actually tell you. That's not gonna save you. You can't outpost the noise or outtrend the AI. And here's where it kind of gets really stupid, because this is the part a lot of people and creators don't understand. They only see their own niche, and lots of gurus out there, they say, okay, I blew up, so trust me, that's the only way of doing it. But it's actually not true, right? I've been here for 9 years at this point. Yeah, I'm old. Having worked with tons of creators from different niches, let's not even get into that. But I can safely say by this point that the very same piece of advice on how to succeed on social media can make one great creator blow up and make another one completely tank, even though they're in the same niche, right? Using the exact same content strategy. And that's because what actually matters is the result of everything that we just talked about, which is understanding your audience behavior, your positioning, your vibe even, and also your intent and your goal behind your content. And this is kind of why I'm against saying things like, well, use these hook formulas and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, some structures obviously will definitely help you succeed in the social media game. Now, you're really going to make it big if you're able to take some of these proven formulas and then make them your own, right? And that's actually not as hard as people think. And if you understand just this principle, you're going to blow up. I can tell you that. People are going to look at you and they're going to remember you and not this other crappy creator that does the exact same thing as everybody else. The problem is people confuse originality with doing everything from scratch and coming up with super crazy ideas, and they spend hours trying to figure this out. It's actually not. Real originality is actually remixing structures with identity. Nobody, for example, watches Taken and says, well, that was a bad movie. I've already watched Finding Nemo. Because structurally, my friends, both of these movies are exactly the same. But if you understand this, that's essentially how you make it work in this new social media world. Standing out from the sea of creators creating content that follows a system that is the same yet vastly different. And you're not going to achieve that obviously by just copying hooks, right? Styles or formats, right? Just use this format and you're going to blow up. Well, it's actually about understanding why these hooks and formats actually work for your audience and then building your own version of it. For example, there's some ways, and we've done that with some clients, to use formats and structures from the crocheting niche and slap them on the fitness one and have it be the absolute game changer content that everybody else starts to copy. And if you look at both, you wouldn't even understand that this is exactly the same thing. So yeah, social media has collapsed, but not in the bad way that everybody's saying, like, oh, everything's done. But essentially everyone is still playing the old game, right? Copying formats, all these hooks, copying people who blew up once and think they figured out the universe. But if you're a creator who actually gets this, right? If you actually allow yourself to think 5% deeper, you're gonna be the one who's gonna own the next 2 years. I tell you that for sure, because this isn't the end of social media. It's the end of lazy social media. And if you're willing to play that new game, you're in pretty early.